guys.
everyone.
We're just going to get our special guest on.
We're having a few technical difficulties today. But hello, Vegas, and hello, Stephen. Thank you for being on. How's everyone today? Hope you're well. Or tonight. I know our overseas followers would be in nighttime.
I'm just sending him our special guest a link. So he's having a bit of issues getting on, but he will be here. G'day, Grave Tales.
Hi, Grave Tales.
Hey, buddy.
Lovely stories you have. I'm still catching up. I only just finished work this morning, but you're on my list. And we've got, is that Helen?
No, it's Grave Tales again.
Hello. Hello. How are you? Thank you for being on our show.
Just wait for our special guest to come on, guys.
Sometimes we get technical difficulties, but, you know, it's the way it is. Oh, I love the snow. I really do. I get so jealous when I see all the snow. Here it's either hot or freezing cold, but no snow. And at the moment it's wet. Everybody's drowning out there. It's just too much rain.
Here he comes. There he is. Okay, I'm just going to bring him in now, guys. G'day, Ben.
Hey. Great to see you both.
Good to see you too, man. Everybody,
this is Ben Lawrence. He is a producer. I believe you're a writer too, Ben. I've read a bit about you. And he's produced quite a few movies as well as commercials, has over 20, 30 years experience. Last one was Heart and Bones. He's got a new movie out called, what's it, Assange, or is it called something else?
Just jammed up. Let me reconnect. Oh, I lost you for a moment. Sorry.
It's only because I was talking. No, I was just saying about your experience as a producer, and you've got a new movie coming up about Assange. I couldn't remember what it's called.
It's called Ithaca, and it will be coming out at the end of April in cinemas and later on in the year on the ABC.
Okay, so everybody keep your eyes out for that one, because I've seen a bit of shorts about it and it looks really interesting.
Yeah, it was a great experience to make. I spent 3 months in London and I was filming with Julian Assange's family, particularly his father, and we followed a court case over there. And then we spent another 6 months editing it. And so we're really coming to the end of that process now. And we've had a couple of screenings and the response has been really good, really good. And we're doing a 2 1-hour version, 2 episodes on the ABC. So there'll be 2 versions of it you can see in the coming months.
So would you like to tell people about yourself, Ben?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a filmmaker in Sydney and I predominantly work in the area of documentary and obviously have made the Ghost Hunter documentary about Jason's life. And that was a 7-year-long process. I met Jason in 2010 and we ended up working together, making a film about delving into the mystery of his life for quite a few many years and the mysteries. And that was a fascinating process. But I originally started making TV commercials and then I worked for the ABC on a couple of other programs, one being the Kelly Lane story, which was about called Exposed. And I've also done some work for Four Corners. And most recently, I made a drama with Hugo Weaving called Hearts and Bones. And then now I've just finished Ithaca, which is another documentary. So I tend to jump between drama and documentary. But one of my most favorite and challenging films was making Ghost Hunter with Jason. So that was a labor of love. And, we've got our friendship to because of what we kind of went through with it. And I have to say how brave he was in telling that story and how wonderful it was to have met Julia too towards the end of the process. But I think we met in about 2017, maybe 2018. I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that.
2016.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Ben was our best man. It's our wedding anniversary this Thursday, 4 years. So,
Oh, congratulations.
so,
So, like, I'm just going to start a question off, because if anybody wants to ask a question towards Ben, just put it up and I'll bring it up for him. Like, for a producer, like for YouTube people, what they do in their work, what do producers go for, and what do they look for?
It's a good question. I mean, I've got three things I look for when I'm trying to decide on whether to start working on a story. And one of them is a really interesting character. And I think, Jason, you're a great example of that. You're a really interesting person who tells a story well, but also you were also reluctant in as much that it was a challenging story to tell. So it came out over a long period of time. So someone who has charisma and someone who has a story to tell. And I also, as a third thing, I look for, obviously the story is a big element, that the story has twists and turns. But the third thing is a visual element of the story. And that's really important for, obviously, when you're making film or TV. And the ghost hunting world is such an amazing visual space. And it also has these wonderful audio kind of landscape to it. So I loved all the clients that I was able to meet when filming with Jason. I also loved the team, and I love the family atmosphere of that. And then that was just a really, I guess, a layer on top of Jason's own history and his family. So just Ghost Hunter, as an example, had all of those elements. And they're the three things that I really look for. And sometimes it takes a long time, but and sometimes people don't want to tell their story, and that becomes very difficult as well. And so you need to really work with people, form relationships and friendships, and take time with people, because as in the case of Ghost Hunter and also Ithaca, it's very difficult material for people to share that on camera. So they're the things I look for.
That's good. Just say somebody's filming, right? What advice would you give somebody in filming for like YouTube or doing their own like YouTube to make it context really, really good? What style or what would you advise the person to how to film their own YouTubes?
Look, the first thing is just to keep it really simple. I mean, I think people are really tempted to go out and get the latest gear and do all of that. I think what's fantastic about YouTube is that you can put things up really quickly. You could have filmed them that afternoon and put them up, and also film them live as well. Like the situation we're in now, you can show people what you've been doing that day and also have that ongoing relationship with your viewers. But the best camera is the camera you either have in your pocket with you. So get something really simple you can turn on.
We've lost audio.
No, it's still there.
I can't hear him.
He stopped talking.
No. Sorry. I just lost you for a
you're
moment.
back.
It's the weather or internet. Yeah, so I would say in terms of the technology, keep it simple. In terms of the camera work, just try and keep it stable, but also pay attention to your sound. I think sound is a really worthwhile, at least spending as much time as you do on the picture is when you come home, is just try and clean up your sound a bit. And that's really the basics. And as you get more confident, you can get, more complicated cameras and sound equipment. But really, I mean, the phones that we have now are fantastic. I filmed quite a bit of Ghost Hunter on a phone, and I'll continue to pull it out of my pocket. And the things that you can capture with your phone, because it doesn't intimidate people as well. If you pull a big camera out, often it's, it kind of has an impact because people either become shy and so the material that you can get when filming discreetly with a phone in different situations is quite amazing. So I would just encourage people to go with those technologies.
And do you advise people too, when filming, like you don't do this, like if you're walking in a straight line, if you're going to walk into something, you show what you're walking around so people don't know why you're looking at a wall all the time. Like you have it focused, so if you're coming up to something, you move and then you keep moving. Do you think that's a good idea too?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think keeping steady, I think there's some really good stabilization software on the phones and other cameras. I would recommend putting them on for YouTube. And the other thing is that people are fascinated by other people's faces and their eyes. So, if you are going to film something, try and get a reaction of someone if you've seen something. Even and just, there's just a very few simple steps you can go through is get someone's reaction before something. Obviously, if you can film the moment when something important happens, but certainly after it, just get someone's reaction afterwards. And little things like that are really important for the material that you may be filming. And also it gives a sense of what the emotion is. And I think that is key, is that if you can put emotion in your work, and if it's through people's responses or your own response or even your own take on it by putting a voiceover or something on, I think you'll only build rapport with your audience, a stronger rapport, because you're showing who you are and what your world looks like.
Good one.
Yeah. So what drew, I know your father was a producer as well. He produced the movie Jindabyne. So I have read a little bit about your profile. And I actually watched Jindabyne when I was younger. Like, I remember the movie as a kid. But what was it, just your father that drew you into the world of movie making, or did you have your own passion for it?
Oh, I think it was a bit of both. I mean, I loved photography. I mean, photography in high school was really important to me, and I spent a lot of time doing that. And I also got a good practice of getting people comfortable around me when I had a camera, which takes a little bit of practice. But obviously, yeah, my relationship with my father, going and visiting him when he was at work. He's made 3 films now. One when I was 10, so that's called Bliss. That was a film that was made in 1985 or 4.
Bliss.
Yeah, and then another one called Lantana, which was around 2000, I think, made in Sydney. And then Jindabyne more recently. So, yeah, there's, seeing all that and seeing the world, I fell in love with it and I wanted to be part of it. But I didn't understand what that meant. And over time, I worked in the industry and I went and did courses and stuff like that. So I think it grew from a young age, for sure, and seeing my father in it. And then there's other family members who also are writers and things like that. So I kind of got a few influences.
Okay. So for the other aspiring young producers out there that may be listening, what's some advice maybe you could give them if they want to go into that world? You were mentioning courses, but what's some of the drawbacks, say? I mean, everything looks glamorous when you make it to the top, but like what we explain as ghost hunters, we don't just get a cat ball lighting up in 10 minutes. Sometimes we're sitting there for hours and we put our best cuts in our show. So what would be the drawbacks of being a producer if you wanted to become one? What's things that they might need to be aware of?
I think you're right in terms of how long it takes, and I think just being persistent. I don't think there's any one path. I mean, I would say work with what you've got. If you come from a really unique background, I think tell that story and try and film it, take photographs. Podcasting has become such an amazing thing. It's very easy to get a hold of audio equipment now, cheap audio equipment from Officeworks, and record stories. One thing I would say is learn about storytelling. So whether it's through books or watching TV or films or podcasts, magazine articles, anything you can get your hands on, but also listening to people around you when they tell you a joke or a story. Pay attention to the structure of it and the way people will turn a phrase. All of those things and all of your life's influences will coalesce around what you want to do eventually. There are really good short courses to learn technical things, but also to meet people who are in a similar situation for you, and that can be great kind of networking. If you're not a good editor, see if you can reach out and meet someone who's got editing equipment and find an editor, or offer your skills for something else. I think it's really about, you can't do it alone, is finding other people, and doing it with other people also gives you a lift emotionally. It makes you feel like you're not so alone, because it does take a long time. I mean, just in the case of making Ghost Hunter, it was 7 years. Yeah. So, a lot happens in that time and it's easy to drop out. But I would say be persistent and stick with it. And eventually over time, you will see the progress you've made. And maybe it's not in the area you think you're going to work in. It might be another area, but just, go with it and learn and look at it as if you're kind of enriching your own world. But I would say, it's hard to survive. So if you can get something that's paying in a similar industry, or if you can get something to make ends meet during those long periods of time, I would say go for it. And TV commercials was something that I was able to do for a long time. And that allowed me to do these other projects that I really loved, that I've been able to make.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I think I was just going to ask, if you weren't doing documentaries, because I know they're your forte, what would you want to do? Like science fiction, horror, a love story? What kind of other projects would you think would be challenging?
I think comedy is really hard. I do like kind of, I don't know what you'd call them. I guess they're science fiction. Things like Groundhog Day, that kind of has a concept in it where the day repeats itself. Films like that I really love. But if I wasn't working in film, I'd probably love to be a photographer. I just love going out with a camera, and that's actually why documentary is so attractive to me, is because you can do it pretty much by yourself, most of it, and then you can spend time with other people. And what I love about that is you step into other people's lives. So I think that that's an amazing thing about it, is you see how other people live, and you can learn about them, and in the meantime you learn about yourself. And you would find that ghost hunting is that you're really stepping into a vulnerable person's life, particularly if they're scared around what might be haunting them or fears they might be having.
For sure. We have someone saw Lantana, one of our subscribers. He's one of our loyal subscribers. I can't thank you enough, Stephen. Yeah. You've been with our channel from day one, so God bless you.
Good, thanks, Stephen. It was quite a film.
Yeah, I gotta say, I noticed when we were out filming, when you were out there filming, we've been doing our ghost hunts. You had a few little things happen to you that you can't explain. You like to tell somebody, what happened when we were out there filming, and I think that we, let them hear what happened to you, because you're a non-believer, but things happen to you that you can't explain.
Yeah, that's true. I had a few things happen. I mean, it was a long period of time, over 7 years. And there were 3 instances. One was when Jason climbed under a house and he put a camera under there that had an infrared light on it. So it was black and white. And in the foreground, when he gave me the footage, I took the tape home and I digitized it onto my computer. And I could see this floating item through it. And you can actually, I think you've probably still got it on your site. If not, maybe you can post it later on. I'd love people to tell me what they think that is. That was one instance of having seen the footage later on. Another one was when...
Wow. I was thinking...
Yeah, it glows. It's really interesting. Have a look at it.
No, it wasn't an orb. It was everybody thought it was a spider, but it wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good one. And it was different from the orbs. But another moment was when Jason and I were in an old dairy up on the Central Coast. And we were there for quite a long time. And out of nowhere came this little, I think it was a rock or a little bolt came flying through the room. Jason was antagonizing or evoking a spirit at the point, and I was in the other end of the room filming, and we heard this thing clank across the room, and it fell at my feet. But the scariest one was a house down in the southwest of Sydney. I often wear headphones when I'm filming, and I keep an ear off, and I just heard a voice whisper in my ear. It was like a breathing voice. And I get chills thinking about it now, but I got chills, and everyone else was in front of me. There was no one else behind me in the house, so it wasn't another person. And that one I can't explain, because it was really clearly spoken in my ear. It was almost like I could feel the breath on my neck. That was the scariest.
Grave Tales. Have you ever had equipment failures?
Yes, I have, and that's the worst situation to be in. If you take care of your equipment and you've got your batteries are the big thing. If you've got your batteries charged and you've got multiple cards, your lenses are clean, something will always is going to happen. If you're in a position to have a backup camera, it might be only your phone. I mean, that's a great thing. I'd always, particularly if you're going to an important filming situation, is take something, at least it's some sort of device you can back up. But equipment failures are really challenging to deal with, because particularly with documentaries, you can't stop the action. Life just goes on. So if your camera goes down, hopefully you've got some sort of audio device. If you've got your phone there, get that out. But those challenges often allow you to, rise to the occasion, and you might find you edit the sequence differently. You might find that you have to take stills instead of doing video, and you might find a new style, and you're making lemonade out of lemons. But equipment failures always tend to happen at the most important times too. So
it's like,
again, just take care of your equipment.
Yeah, it's like when we were filming, I sent that the sound guy insane, because every time he gave me batteries onto the thing, less than a few minutes, he go, the batteries are dead, and you go, what? Hang on. And every time he gave it to me, hooked it on me, I was just killing the batteries.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but you were just churning through those batteries. I mean, batteries are the big thing, particularly for a lot of the cameras at the moment, and even the phones. If you're out there doing a ghost hunt for, if it's a number of hours, and you want to capture everything, you're going to go through them pretty quickly.
If anybody's got any questions for Ben, please ask the questions, and I'll bring them up. Anything at all. Ben's open book. He answers all the questions. And also, too, I noticed throughout the filming, at one stage, it's on your phone, you've got another, like a camera, but it shows you what it looks like if it's going to be on a film. What was that program? If anybody wants to use it, can anybody use it on their phone for YouTube?
You can, yeah. Look, I'll tell you the app. I've got it on my phone here, but basically it allows you to input what camera you have into the app, and then it'll tell you, depending on what lens you're using, what the framing might be. So it just gives you an opportunity to frame up. Say, if you go into, often when we're filming, we'll go to a location before we actually do the shoot in the best situation, and we can look at that location in the right lighting. So if we'll go on there the night before or a few days before and see it at night or see it in the morning whenever we're going to shoot, and we can look at it through the lens of the camera that we will bring on the night. So that app there's a few of them out there. One's called Panoscout, and what's the other one? Helios is the other one I use. So that's really if you're using a variety of different cameras, and also it means that you don't have to bring your camera to the location every time if you just want to do a reconnaissance.
Yes. Yeah, because I noticed that when we were filming, you were doing that a lot, and I went, "Oh, what's that? What's that?" And then, just say somebody's editing. What programs would you recommend for if people want to learn editing? Like, what programs would you recommend using for editing for YouTube or anything like that?
Again, I would just go with a really simple one. I mean, I use Premiere, but I mean, it's not necessarily. It's a little bit more technical. We tend to use that or Avid when we're making films, but I also use iMovie at home, and I think even the editing app, excuse me, on your phone is pretty good. Most of them these days, particularly if you want to get something out quickly. So again, it's just use what you've got, and then if you find once you get familiar with it, you want more power of it or more complexity, then maybe upgrade to the next one. But just slowly go through, what suits you, and don't feel like you need to get the best one, because the best one is not necessarily the right one or the most expensive. So YouTube's, anything you need, whatever you need, whatever suits you.
So, does anybody got any questions for Ben? Like, this is a good chance. He's a producer. He's done a lot of ads too. What ads have you done? If anybody's overseas is watching, what ads have you done so people might go, "Oh, I didn't know it was you"?
Oh, look, I haven't done the commercials for a couple of years now, particularly since I've been busy with film and televisions, but work for a lot of different brands, from McDonald's, MasterCard, a couple of car brands, Mitsubishi and people like that. So I did TV commercials for about 25 years. And so I used to do ones that were very much of a documentary style. So I would go into someone's house who the business had found, and we'd tell their story, and it might be someone who had just bought a car and their experience. So it tended to fit into eventually making longer documentaries about other stories. So that was a really good way to practice as well.
Just making sure nobody's asked a question. Just going through them all.
We've only got a little tiny panel on the side that we see. So when he scrolls through, because they go so quick, the comments, so every now and then he'll go back and try and make sure we haven't missed anyone.
I've got a good question, Ben. When filming, like a lot of people use music in certain areas, right? Do you think it's good to have music, or like pick a music that's really, going to suck people in? What do you think about that?
Music is so subjective. I think if you put something on and you feel good about it, then that's the best test. You feel it in your gut. But you can overdo music. I think sometimes if the emotion or the feeling you want to convey is there and you don't need music, then try it without. Because I think sometimes just hearing the sound of the environment around that person and just hearing them breathing or whatever, just very simple sounds, is really good. Sometimes you don't need, you can overemphasize it. That's my feeling. And then sometimes you just want to put music on that actually works against it. And that can be really interesting because it makes people feel something about something that they didn't necessarily think they could feel, or they see something in a different way. So I would say try something unexpected and just see how it works. Again, there's a lot of really good musicians out there too, and they can give you advice on that. But it's such a subjective thing. You be surprised how much you can disagree about music. It's a really contentious thing, I find, a lot of the time.
No, it's true. With my history channel, I was putting a lot of music in it, and I had feedback, not so much music. And I'm actually enjoying it more. I try and take on board, and you learn what works and what doesn't. It's all trial and error. So I can understand what you're coming from. Like, I watched one of my earlier ones and went, oh, why did I put that much music in it? I didn't like it. You know what I mean? It kind of ruined what I did. But I kind of get where you're coming from. We've got Grave Tales. How do we watch your documentaries in the US?
Oh, okay. Well, I believe Ghost Hunter is possibly released in the US. I can put some details. I can send some details to Jason afterwards. I don't have it at hand. I know Hearts and Bones is available on iTunes in the US, which is a drama of mine. Ghost Hunter may be on the same platform, but I'll have to check on that.
I think that's available on Google for us. So maybe if you Google it and watch the trailer, it'll tell you where it's available. I think Amazon sells it too.
There's one for you, Ben. How many good listeners have you?
How many good listeners have you dealt with?
What does that mean? How many good listeners have I dealt with?
Maybe people you've spoken to. I don't know.
Do you want to elaborate on the question, Jafo?
Jafo, can you just elaborate on that one for us, please?
I think what I found going and making Ghost Hunter with Jason was how global the following of ghost hunting is in the spirit world. I just found that amazing. I did some interviews with some people in Las Vegas and all around. Everywhere you go, that's what amazed me, is everyone has a ghost story. And as Jason will tell you, that often they'll say they don't believe in ghosts, and then they'll tell you a ghost story. So it was a great way to get to know people, I think, to let them know that we were filming about ghosts. It's there isn't a part of the world that's untouched by the spirit world and the belief in it and the fascination with it, I think.
And do you think when you're in an area, say it's all dark, do you think it's good to use very bright lights or dim lights, or do you think you should light up the area at the back so when you're filming at the front, people can see at the back too? What do you think of that?
Yeah, look, I think it's a bit of a combination. I really struggled with how to light the ghost hunt scenes. Obviously, it's always dark, and even take it to the next level where the lights are sometimes, or most often the time, turned out to elevate the situation and hopefully bring the spirits forward. But I basically got it into a very simple situation where I used to actually wear a head torch. And so I would just illuminate as far as kind of 5 or 6 feet in front of me. And I would, if I was wanting to talk to someone or see something, I would just walk up close. So it still kept that darkness around it and kept that atmosphere. And I wasn't interfering too much in the ghost hunt, but the camera could see what I was filming. And it also created this kind of circular effect where you could just kind of zone in on one little thing. But I think using silhouettes as well, if you do have a lit background or if it's a street light or something, a little bit of light always helps. The other thing with ghost hunting is that the audio was so important. If I could keep the audio fairly clean and I could pick up different things from different people, even if the room was dark, I could get a sense of the drama of what was going on by what people were saying. But that really relied on really good audio. So a combination of the two was really important. But I've still got my head torch and a little cap with a light on it that I relied on. And it was a really simple little setup. But I look back at that footage now and it's a really good way. But also it created a really nice atmosphere. Like it kind of felt in with the mystery of it all.
I just wanted to acknowledge some of our listeners, Bud Files, Lost for Words, Southern Renegade. I saw them. I just want to say hello to you all. I didn't want to cut in and be rude. So if I haven't said hello yet, big hello. Thank you for watching.
There's a question for you, Ben.
Okay, great. So
what kind of voice equipment do you like using the most, if any?
Yeah, so if I'm recording sound, I'll try and do it on the camera. So I will put 2 channels into the camera. At the very least, I'll put a microphone on the camera. I'll very rarely rely on the camera's own audio microphone. They just tend not to be focused enough. But if you can get a cheap little microphone, even for your iPhone, and it'll just give you a little bit more control, a little bit more direction as well to pick up voices a little bit better. But what I do now is I generally split it into 2 channels. So I have a microphone on the camera, and then I have a microphone on one character, which means that I can choose which sound I hear when I'm doing my editing. So, and also that person can walk far away from me and I can still hear them very cleanly. And I'll just put a little microphone on their collar. And that generally gives me enough to cover everything, particularly if it's just me filming. And if we have another person filming, we'll do the same setup for them, which means that we have 2 microphones for each camera. It means we have 4 different channels going. And when you have that much sound recorded on 4 different clean channels, when you get into editing, you have a lot of choices, which is great.
I think this asks another question. What about voice apps or other devices?
I think he's referring to the paranormal ones.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
Necrophonic, I find, is our best one, Jaffo. Spirit Talker can be off sometimes, not precise, or it doesn't seem to make any sense. Ghost Tube can be the same, or it's very, you only get 1 or 2 words here and there. Where I find Necrophonic, you'll get different voice qualities. Every time we've used it, it's related to where we are. We often have flight mode and things like that on it, so we can't say, oh, well, it's some sort of device that's listening to where we are. It's probably the most precise app. But in saying that, we like to play with other types of devices too to get spirits to communicate. But it's all trial and error. It's whatever suits you.
Has anybody got any other questions for Ben? While he's here, like anything about filming or what's? So, in a point of view of an audience, what do you think is great to show an audience if they're filming?
Oh, look, sometimes it's good not to show something. I mean, just seeing someone's reaction to something is really good. The thing with the thing with creating tension as well, often the idea that there's something off camera is really important. So if the camera can't quite see into the darkness and all they can hear is the sound, or if someone makes a reaction and they scream and run out, you want to see what they've seen. So I think sometimes is limiting the information is really good. And I think that's what happens on a ghost hunt, is that you're in this environment, and if you've turned the lights out and you're just listening and you can't see, your mind tends to play tricks on you as well. So I think being really clear about what you can hear and what you can see, and not necessarily always using that combination, is really important. But just in terms of documenting something, I think, again, it's really important to get a sense of a comment from someone. So ask people how they're feeling, ask people what just happened. So they're explaining to the camera as well as what you might have seen. So you can show and tell things. And again, it just creates more options when you are editing, if you are later on. So and even doing your own little voiceover while you're filming is a comment on something that may have happened as well. All this you may not need, but I think just have a little checklist that you can run through each time something happens is really important.
So it's like when you're interviewing somebody, like our last video at the police station. Yeah. Like he told us a story about what happened to two sisters went to walk into a room and get them to tell the story. So when you go into that room, the people who watch that scene knows why you're in that scene.
Exactly, yeah. And then when that space then becomes more powerful, because you know what's happened there, you've already heard. And I think also being able to get these other layers or textures, it might be a document, it might be a piece of music that someone heard, or an article that you may have read about that place. So you bring all those things together, and I think it just builds the idea of a story up as well. And what's fascinating about ghost hunting is it's so much about location, and also the time of day you do it as well. I mean, even ghost hunts in the middle of the day in the bright sun can be really, really kind of atmospheric and be the right time to be there. And it might be because that space is really quiet at that point, and maybe nighttime is noisy. So depending on where you are, but the place is really important. And then the people who work there or live there are so important. So getting their recollections and creating these stories within these spaces, it really gives a sense of being there. And that's what I think that ghost hunting online is great, is when you get the same feeling as if you were there. And it's hearing people's recollections are really important.
It's true. Vegas has got a question for you. She has her own paranormal channel. Have you had hate catching something and it's being legit? So I think it's like, have you hate catching something and it's been real, or have you ever caught him, or you was saying how you caught that thing that could have been Peter, the spirit of Peter or spirit in the house?
Yeah, look, it's really challenging because, obviously went into it as a non-believer. And so and I think Jason does too, he goes into a situation, he knows what's been happening there, and he wants to either prove it or disprove it. And you want to support the person the best you can in that situation, and give them some comfort. But I was really challenged a lot of the time because I would see something or film something and I couldn't explain it. And now it didn't mean it was real or it wasn't real, but it raised more questions. And those questions need to be answered in order to get some sort of comfort. So it just took you further down the story. It took you further down the rabbit hole. And so often when you found something and you couldn't explain it, it would bring everyone together. And we were like, okay, what is this? How do we work it out? Well, it could be this, it could be that. And I think then with your client or the person who lives there or works there, you can then bring them in on that conversation and also try to understand what is exactly going on. So, I've been challenged, but I think it's been a really beneficial experience to go through, because you can bring your team together and work out what's going on with the evidence of whatever you've captured. We
walked out the front of that guy's house only to find out the guy was a teacher for those football players.
Yeah, exactly.
What Vegas meant was, have you ever caught anything, activity, and people have judged you for it?
I know I never got any bad response of being involved in the project or capturing something. But it was always the first question that people asked me, if you go out 7 years ghost hunting across Australia, because I know we went to a lot of places in the end. The first question everyone was, did you ever see a ghost? And now that is such a loaded question, because the idea of a ghost takes on so many different manifestations. And while I'm still a non-believer, I'm still very hungry to go out there and find it. And it didn't mean I got scared a lot of the time. So what does that mean?
Oh, you never told me that part.
And I would capture things I couldn't explain. So what does that mean? So it could be a sound, it could be a smell, it could be something visual, it could be the atmosphere, a bit of smoke or a bit of humidity. What are these things and how do we explain them? So that's really the beauty of the experience. But ultimately what I loved is the camaraderie. And I think that I really look forward to all the ghost hunts that I went on. And, it was seeing everyone again, and we're all out there, and it was we were doing it on a Friday night. And I think that's the best thing about it. It just brings people together, and they're all trying to work together and enjoy it as well. It was really, really an enjoyable time in my life.
Well, you're more than welcome to join us anytime.
Yeah, I look forward to it. COVID's been keeping everyone.
We'll take you. We'll get you
I'd
involved.
love to. Okay, okay. You're on.
Another question?
What kind of odors have you encountered, if any, and were they bad smells?
I don't remember any bad smells. I think we went to some places that were pretty run down and they smelt bad because of that. But there were things like steam and smoke I think we'd come across. I remember the train tunnel down south of Sydney, was pretty amazing. That actually had its own environment in that it felt like a different climate when you walked into the train tunnel. From being outside, it was might have been cold and dry, and then you went in, it was damp and warm. I mean, you take 5 steps. So there were places like that really had their own microclimates that really added to the atmosphere and could have created all different sorts of effects of smoke and smells and all those sorts of sounds as well that come along with it.
That's true.
Yeah. I was going to ask, Ben, what's your next project? Do you have one in store?
I don't at the moment. I'm just finishing up on Ithaca, which is my Julian Assange documentary. And that's been a couple of years in the making, which is pretty quick considering. But I'm just finishing that, and that'll take me a couple more months, and then I'll have a look at where I am at work-wise then. But I'm always on the lookout. I'm always calling people, reading magazines, newspaper articles. That's how I first met Jason. There was a tiny little article in a newspaper, local newspaper. It was about him and his ghost hunting, and the story of how he had lost Peter, his brother, and that really touched me. And I think I rang you the next day, and I was at your house a couple of days later. So, who knows where life's going to take you? I think just follow your instinct, follow your sense of what interests you.
Yeah, just believe, like, if you have passion, doesn't matter what people say, stick to your passion, stick to your guns, and don't change who you are. Just be yourself. As you know me for a long time, I haven't changed who I am. I'm still the same person, and I still got the same passion. And I show people my passion. And if people don't like my passion, then it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, and you learn so much about yourself as well going through this journey.
You do. What was your first encounter that made you believe in spirit?
Well, I'm still skeptical, so to be honest, but like I said, my first encounter that made me scared, that made me question, I'm ever questioning. So I think I'm not sitting on the fence, but like a lot of things, I'm constantly searching. My first one was probably, we filmed, there was a gentleman who was seeing a young girl in the mirror when he was in the bathroom, and his dog was also too afraid to go outside and look under the house. And so Jason put a camera under the house that was a infrared camera, And I reviewed the footage later I think the next day, and I rang him because I saw something. Jason can post it maybe later on his site, but it is this streaming kind of glowing. I don't know what it looks like, but I thought he had captured something for sure. That was our first ghost hunt. So I thought, all of them are like this. But that made me start to think, okay, maybe there's something here. And so we were really determined from that point on to get as much equipment in there as possible and see if we could find more of that stuff. But the other things that I think are really interesting is the audio recordings, because you can hear so much in them, and often some of them are very clear, some of the words that Jason's captured and others. So, that's the other recording device I think is really important when you're out there.
Just say like someone's got a recorder, right? Do you think if in case that recorder doesn't pick up sound, is to have a voice recorder turned on at the same time? So if you can't quite hear what's going on the recorder, is have your voice recorder right beside it so you can use that too if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think typically with the voice recorders, they're going to record a lot longer as well. So, and they just take a couple little batteries, they last longer, the recording lasts longer. So I think voice recorders, they're also quite affordable as well. You can put several of them around the place. And as long as you mark where you'll place them and what aspect they're filming, you might say one for the lounge room and one for the front room. I think they're great. And they are a good companion device to a camera as well. The hard thing is that you've just end up with so much material. So that's the other thing you have to, as I know you do, we're very careful about how you log everything. But it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. So that's the other thing to think about.
Okay. Cool.
Has anybody else got any questions for Ben? Like what advice will you give people while being out there, like for yourself, like because you've never done a ghost hunt till you met me? What advice would you give people if they're going to go into that field not knowing anything?
I think go into it with an open mind, but also go into it knowing that people come from different aspects of it. People enter it. And I think you would share this point of view, Jason. When I first met you, going back 12 years ago now, there was a very technical focus on what you did, and over a period of time, working with your clients and working with people, particularly with when Julia started working with you, the focus became additionally personal as well. So people might come in loving the cameras, or they might come in just really liking the relationships. Other people might just like hanging out in the group and having their own experience being private. I mean, some people don't want to share what's happened to them in regards to the spirit world. And so I think just giving people time to ease into it in their own way is really important. And I know that everyone that I met on your ghost hunts was very accepting. And that was, again, the team side of it was fantastic. But I think people bring their own skills. They might be able to build websites and you can upload with them, or they might just come from a more investigative background. So there's all these skills that people can bring to ghost hunting and filmmaking as well, and in trying to capture it in a really interesting way, and just finding that skill. So it's not the quiet ones that, sometimes they come up with some of the best ideas. So really just bring everyone in, and it usually creates a really good environment as well, which I learned from you guys.
Yeah, it's like how you saw me. Sometimes we use a strategy, what we're going to do before we do an investigation. We get an idea. We listen to people off, like our last video. We listen to where everything was happening and stuff like that. So it just really is important to listen to the people that are talking. And so you go, okay, before going into it, like you videoed me being in a group, and say, okay, guys, we've got to try this. And anybody got any, you really got to discuss your strategy before going into it.
Yeah, definitely. And I saw you guys do that a lot. And I also think that allowing that strategy to be flexible, which is another thing I think I learned from you as well. So, you can go in with all the best intentions, all the information, and then something happens and you're like, okay, we've got to change this. That room's not the focus, or that person, and someone else walks in and visits and they might become, and also supporting each other. I know, because it can become quite emotional as well. People become overwhelmed, with the environment as well. And also it takes a long time. So,
Whoops.
Yep. Dropped on
I
the
think
audio.
we lost him.
We've lost you.
Hang on, guys. You won't be a second. I think we just lost reception. As we wait for Ben, has anybody else got any questions for Ben?
Going into the small hours of the morning.
Yeah, you're going in and out of the sound a bit.
Yeah, sorry, I just dropped off there. I'm back again. I just missed that question.
I was going to say, look, one thing I've noticed about YouTube and, social media and stuff, there can be a lot of jealousy, especially if you produce good content or, we do try para-unity with everyone. It doesn't always work that way because it's a competitive market. There's a lot of paranormal teams out there. There's a lot of good ones out there, but there can be jealousy. Have you encountered that in the producing world where you've grabbed a project and another producer's gone, oh, I was going to do that, or you've done a really great job and they've gone, oh, yeah, thanks, that's good, but they really, really were a little bit, wish they were the one that was in the limelight?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I haven't experienced it personally. I see it on occasion. I think obviously in all fields there's that heavy competition for certain things. I think I always find that I gravitate towards people who I connect with, and I really like establishing a good relationship with people. That's really important. The sense of trust. I think getting to know people and understanding how you can trust them and when, and all of that's really important. So you find your own people and you find your own tribe, and I think between those groups there may be some animosity, but generally I think most people in the ghost hunting world are very supportive of each other and really interested in what each other are doing. But yeah, it's funny, I find when I do get criticized for things, they stick. You might have had 10 people say good things and then one says something bad and you're like, oh God, that really sticks with you. But I try to remind myself of all the good things and also the plans for the future as well. But I think it's those relationships that get you through. You can always be able to ring up people and have a chat about the work that you're doing or the work you're going to do or the ghost hunt you're going to go on, and stay focused on the future, because it's that's the thing that'll get you through. But it is tricky to navigate, because the competitive nature of a lot of things can be depleting, but I think just walking away from them sometimes can also give you a fresh start.
Absolutely. It's the best advice. Jaffo, Ben, I'm surprised that listeners like me are not sought after more as to our gift and curse.
That means.
Well, I think it's more, people have their own personal opinion on, with Jason being a medium, like you said, you walked in being a skeptic and you're waiting for him to prove to you that he is seeing his dead brother, maybe, and unfortunately a lot of, like, I'm a medium too, we have a stigma. We're either, making it up, or we're actually seeing something, and a lot of people, like you said, have that open mind. Unless something happens to them, they tend not to believe that we actually have a gift. And unfortunately, Jaffo, that's our curse as well, that we're often disbelieved, and I think we're filming, it's not many paranormal teams are being filmed because there's so many of us. So he's lost. He's frozen in time.
We'll wait for Ben to come back in a second.
Sorry, Jaffo.
He's off. He's just dropped out. He will be back.
He'll come back on.
He's probably just lost internet.
He must have really bad reception where he is. And can I just say, here we are in Australia. It's really shocking weather at the moment. It's torrential rain. We've got storms. There's a lot of towns surrounding us that are flooded at the moment. People have lost their homes, their businesses. We've actually, waiting to hear if our holiday home's been destroyed, because we're surrounded by water and rising, and, So it's caused a lot of loss, and I'd say it would cause a lot of Wi-Fi problems as well. So we'll find out what's happening here. So
hopefully Ben will be back in a minute.
yeah,
He's just lost reception because it is, as Julia said, there's a
he's
lot.
coming. He's back.
He's back. Here we go. I'll bring him back up. There we go.
I think the weather's playing havoc with us
I
here.
was just mentioning about the floods to people. The reception at the moment would be getting tampered with because we're in the middle of floods where we are. A lot of the roads are blocked. People have been losing their homes and businesses and things due to the flash flooding. It's affected everyone. So, and it's been 2 weeks torrential rain. It's not just been a little shower. It's non-stop. So, yeah.
It's been very challenging, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've actually heard of 4 people that I know that's lost their homes so far. And our holiday home, there's water around it and rising at the moment. So we don't even know if that's going to, withhold the storm, so to speak, because the water's still coming. So,
yeah, we're thinking of everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we're all about, we've got each other. As long as you're dry and safe wherever you are, for the Aussies that are listening, I can't apologise enough if you've lost your home or something, or you've known someone that has, but as long as you're safe and you make it through, you can live for another day. Yeah.
Has anybody got any other questions for Ben?
No, I haven't, but I can't thank you enough for being on, Ben, and talking to us. I hope it hasn't been too challenging with the reception. So
no, that's fine. I'm sorry. It might have been on my end as well. I've had just so much rain, but I've really enjoyed talking to you both, and it's good to see you. We haven't caught up for a while, so thank you to everyone listening and the questions and everything. It's been fantastic.
Okay, what we'll do, we're going to end it here. You stay there, Ben, because I'll chat to you after this. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Yeah. Also, if you want to see more videos, go to Julia's page too. She's got a Cemeteries Down Under. She does a lot of histories in that too. So check her site out, guys, and go and like and subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, like and subscribe also. And
keep your eyes peeled for Ithaca.
Yep, Ithaca.
Yep. And I know Heart and Bones was showing on Stan or one of the paid channels. But if you Google it up, if you're overseas, usually it tells you how you can buy or rent it anyway. Because with Ghost Hunter, if you Google it up, it'll show you a premiere. So, have a look. And, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. And I'm looking forward to seeing it myself. So I believe it's coming out in the movies.
Yep. Be coming out movies in April.
So what? You got some premieres coming up for it, is it?
Yeah, we think around the end of April we'll come up the east coast of Australia. There'll be a couple of screenings in Perth and Adelaide as well. So maybe the major centres. So and the ABC in Australia in the middle of the year.
Well, looking forward to it because it sounds really interesting. I've been following his story since when he exiled, basically, and there was a documentary, a short TV miniseries about him years ago that I watched, and I found it kind of really emotional, so in a lot of ways he's a victim. So, it's
quite a story.
So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Definitely going to be watching
I'll
this.
Keep you posted.
Well done.
Oh, yeah, 100%. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Stay tuned for our next big guest we're going to have on. We're not going to tell you. We're going to surprise you. So thank you very much for everybody here who's come in. And as I say, have a good day.